Hi, my name is Danny Fleming of MA Properties, and I'm here to do a seller's masterclass. And what's the title of this one? It's selling. How, what, and when. So our purpose is to educate folks. But I believe, what's really important is to fill people in on how things work. So it gives you a confidence level, you know what's going to happen, you know what's happening, and you know when things are expected. So let me take you through some of the steps involved with selling. First, wanted to talk a little bit about financial aspects. Not getting too much into that, but just fill you in on a couple of misconceptions. Seasonality. What happens with the pre-listing phase? What is a pre-listing phase? What's the on-market phase? The accepted offer, what happens then? Purchase and sale, closing, and some additional considerations that are of interest to you. So let's get going. Financial. So some folks, the decision on when and how to sell really depends on whether you want to buy before selling or do you need to sell before buying. It all depends on if a bank will allow you to have two mortgages at the same time. And even if that's only for a couple of days, and it seems crazy. Well, I only have two mortgages for 3 days. No, the bank won't give you a mortgage if you don't have the income to be able to support two mortgages, even if it's just for a 3-day period. So if they will allow you to have two mortgages, then you don't need to sell before buying. If they won't, you will need to have your home at least under agreement before you can buy, and try and coincide the closings or have the closings of the home that you're selling the day before the one that you're buying, so that you don't have two mortgages at once. And there are different techniques for both. So, and it goes in depth which way to go and how to do each. There's a whole lot of what ifs and how, and it's all specifically related to your individual situation. We do have a seller's masterclass called Timing a Buy and a Sell, and it does go into a whole lot of detail in it. If you'd like, go to our video library and look for the seller's masterclass videos and look for the one on timing a buy and a sell. And that'll go into it in more detail. Now, if you've still got questions after that, of course, just contact us and ask. One of the common misconceptions that happens out there, and this is why people think that they need to sell first, is I don't have enough money for the down payment, so I need to sell first. Well, a lot of this, and we've had this comment a number of times, and when we drill further down, we understand that there's a little bit of a misconception there, and so which is why I thought I'd throw this in. There is a difference between the down payment and the deposit, and when these two payments are required. The deposit, it's the amount of money that you need to what they call bind an offer on a home, make it a legal accepted offer. There's got to be consideration, money past change hands. And there's the first part at the offer period, and then purchase and sale a couple of days later or 10 days later, could be 3 to 10 days later. It's typically 5% of the purchase price. It does depend on the town. The further out you are, the less, it may only be 3%. So each town or each area has very specifics with what that percentage is. Okay, so now you're at purchase and sale. You've put 5% down. You don't need the balance of your down payment, and the down payment is what the bank requires. It's not what the offer requires or the contract requires. It's what the bank requires for you to put down as part of you getting a mortgage. Let's say you're getting an 80% mortgage. The bank is requiring a 20% down payment. Well, you've already put 5% down at the purchase and sale time. So at that point, at closing, not before, at closing, you just need another 15%. So a lot of people think that they need the 20% as they're making an offer on a home. No, it's after your home that you're selling, which might have been the day before you're closing on a new home. That's when you need that 20% in total. So let's get into seasonality, because seasonality is actually important as well, especially if you need to buy before you sell. But let's have a little bit more of a think about this first. Over winter, most buyers and sellers think, I'm going to move. I'm going to move in spring. I'm going to move in summer. I'm going to move when the kids are out of school. I'm going to move. So you need to factor in the timing, as I say, especially if you need to buy after you've, if you need to buy, let me start that again. It depends on whether you can buy without needing to sell. Because if you decide yourselves, well, yeah, I can buy without needing to sell, but I don't want to do that. I want to wait to sell until after I've got something under agreement. Well, that's great. But what if you don't find that perfect home you want to buy until the end of October? And then now you're talking about selling in maybe November or December. Terrible time to sell. And especially when you consider having to have those things happen fairly quickly because you don't want two mortgages. You don't want to be selling your home in one of the worst periods of time during the year. So let me describe this just a little bit more. But we'll put it in the perspective of when the best time to sell is. So the best time to sell is when your inventory is low and demand is high. So I mentioned just a minute ago that over winter, most of the buyers are thinking, I want to move this year. I want to move. Let's move. Let's move during summer. So when the winter starts breaking, they are, let's go see some houses. Let's go see them. But typically, most sellers don't think that the best time to sell is until the gardens start looking beautiful. Yep. The best time to sell, low inventory, is the beginning of the spring season, and sometimes depending on the winter, that can be as early as the third week in January or the first week in February, through till about mid-April. Then by mid-April, you start getting a lot more homes coming on the market because there's the gardens are looking beautiful. So you get a lot more homes coming on the market. And the buyers who are out in that period of time are thinking, well, yeah, this home's really nice, but maybe a better home will come on next weekend. So they're sort of hedging their bets. They're not necessarily jumping at the first thing when there's a lot of homes coming on the market. And that's item 3 there. The second best time to sell is typically the weekend after Memorial Day to the end of July. Now, why then? Because those same buyers who were thinking over winter that they want to buy during the spring/summer market so that they can move in before the school system starts. Well, Memorial Day is psychologically the beginning of summer. Yay! And the buyers haven't bought. Oh my goodness, they haven't bought. They need to buy. So any home that comes on the market after that period of time, we need to get active. We need to get busy. So they're anxious that they haven't bought. Now, let's go into August, this is down in the times to avoid. If a buyer hasn't got a home under agreement by the end of July, beginning of August, typically they've missed out for the year. They've missed out for the beginning of the school season, because most banks probably take 3 to 4 weeks to be able to process a mortgage. If they don't have a home under agreement by the beginning of August, and with school starting the end of August, they're going to be pushing it to get into the home by the time school starts. So a lot of people, they just sort of give up during the August time period. A lot of sellers don't come on the market then, because that's not a great time. Everyone's thinking about summer and enjoying that sort of stuff. So that's typically not a fantastic time to come on the market. Now, I have to throw in a caveat. During COVID, and the years where COVID was very much the forefront of our mind, any time was okay to sell. So this is a typical seasonality, pre-COVID and post-COVID. Funny to say post-COVID, isn't it? But anyway, then let's talk about September. So September is the beginning of the fall market. Now the fall market is pretty quick. It's from September till about mid-October. When you think about it though, during that period of time, typically the only buyers who are looking are the buyers who already live in the town. Because if a buyer was looking to buy and they've got kids in their current town's school system and they've only just started, they've been at school again, for 2 weeks, they're probably not going to be really anxious or really keen to move them out of where they've just started and move them into a completely different school system a few weeks later. So typically the fall market is just the buyers who are looking to upsize or downsize in the town that they live in. Then you've got mid-October to mid-November. Well, mid-October you're starting to get Halloween, then you're getting Thanksgiving. People are starting to think about other things. Late November to over winter, to some period of time in January or early February when the next spring market starts, is not a fantastic time as well. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea. Talking about that from the perspective of selling when the best times are, you need to factor in buying in those periods of time as well. So if you had to sell, then come on the market early in the year, ask for a long closing, maybe to close late June, and then you've got the advantage of that mid-April timeframe where lots of homes are coming on the market, and you're going to have a lot more choice then to find something that you would like to buy and then coincide closings. So factor in the seasonality with what your plans are, and we can talk more about this at length, together as well. But here's a graph that shows this. This is typical listing activity. This was 2022. So the blue bars are how many homes come on the market. The orange, pink, that is typically our spring/summer market. You can see August, there's not too many homes coming on the market. And you've got September and October, you've got not as many homes coming on the market and starting to wane off. And in December, last year, 5 homes came on the market in the whole of December. So not a great time to sell. Now, when we talk about timing, have a plan. If you've got a plan, even if it's 12 months in advance, that you quietly start working toward executing your plan, it takes the frenetic activity away from getting ready to come on the market. You just quietly start packing things, start sort of thinking, processing things, getting things fixed around the home, different things like that. But part of your timing is, do you need to work around the school calendar? Even if you don't have kids that you need to be in a town by the beginning of school, think about the buyers of your home because they want to be in the town before the beginning of school. So factor in the school calendar with that as well. Do you need to work around relocating to another state? You might not know what the housing market is like in your other state that you're moving to. So there's different ways around working through that. And again, back to, do you need to buy first? So there's a whole lot of things at play when deciding when to come on the market. And there are so many strategies involved in it that we can't really sort of say, well, do this, do that, do this. It's all about knowing your individual circumstances and working through the best strategy for you. Don't just call up and say, I want to come on the market next week without understanding what the ramifications of that are. So now let's get into the things of, okay, you know when you want to come on the market. So we term that the pre-listing phase. So pre-listing, first things, connect with an agent. Us, of course. Yeah. Why would you? Yeah, anyway. Then, yeah, that was the sell job. It was a pretty pitiful one, wasn't it? Packing and decluttering. Start just putting things away. Just start. If you think about it, how the ease of the process, if you haven't used if you haven't used something for the last 2 years, put it in a box and either put it in the garage, put it in the basement, put it in a storage unit, because it's most likely you won't need it in the next 6 months, say you're thinking of selling in 6 months' time. So start packing and decluttering, putting things away so that it's easier when it's time to come on the market. Then the preparation phase happens, and we'll go more into what that is all about. Then there's staging, the marketing component, the pricing strategy component, and verifying the accuracy of the information. And you're sort of saying, what does she mean by that? Well, we'll come to that. Anyway, so let's go through each of these. Connect with an agent. Now's the sell job. We'll guide you through the whole process step by step. I have to say, we are very, very process-driven and systems-driven. It has, by doing that, we have a high-quality product consistently. It's time after time after time, the same services, the same ease of process, it just makes it easier for you, and because we can explain it the whole way and there's no knee-jerk reactions and, oh, we need to do this as well. It's just, we'll guide you through it step by step. We'll explain what's happening in the market because the market dynamics change pretty regularly, and we'll keep you informed. We keep you informed the whole way along as to what's going on. That felt good. We'll strategize on timing your home coming on the market. We'll go into depth of how it works for you specifically. We'll recommend cosmetic improvements that'll give you a huge ROI, return on investment. We're not going to tell you have to do them, but we'll recommend some things that will make a huge difference in the amount of money that your home will sell for versus the amount of money that it costs to do. We'll recommend suggestions on packing and staging that'll make your home a wow. We want the buyers to walk in the door and, oh, wow. And there's a whole lot of things with that. And we also would recommend triggers. We need to put that away because that's a trigger point. If a buyer sees that, they think X. We'll tell you all about those as well. We'll do an accurate market analysis now. Even though you're not planning on selling now, you might be planning on selling in 6 months' time. We'll do that one now, and then we'll update it the weekend prior to coming on the market so that you've got all of the current information. But most people don't really know how much their home would sell for. So we figure we'll do the market analysis now, give you a good idea what it would sell for in today's market, and then we'll update it the weekend before coming on. We'll set you up with our listing dashboard to keep track of all the key activities. So our listing dashboard is an app on a phone, on the iPhone or the Android, and it tracks dates associated with the pre-listing phase. It gives you metrics and information on the on-market phase. We'll give you the information of the open house activity, the feedback. You can see how many people are viewing the 3D tour, all real time. How many people are viewing the video, how many people are looking at the website, how many people are looking at the floor plans, how many people are looking at the feature sheet. All of those metrics play a part in giving us an idea how your home is resonating with the buyer population out there. And then in the under agreement phase, we'll document and it's updated real time as to when activities are planned and when they're taking place. And then we'll get you to sign listing paperwork as well, of course. We'll also, a lot of people seem to think that their home, it depends on the town that you're in, but a lot of people seem to think that their home is a tear down. We probably find that 95% aren't. But if there's a chance that it might be a tear down, we'll do a buyer or builder market analysis, providing both sets of data. So what a builder will pay, a builder is proposing paying versus what a market analysis that the buyers will pay. And then depending on where we are or where the levels of those are, if you decide you want to explore the builder component, we'll go back and start getting really firmed up offers from builders. But again, only 5% of the time is that really an option. You'll get more just doing minor cosmetics around your home. You'll get more money from a home buyer, but we can do the other thing as well, just to fill you in on that too. So connect with us again. Don't be swayed by the bad practices that a lot of agents promote. You need to be aware that they're probably suggesting things that are in their benefit and not yours. Just be alert to that. And what are some of the bad practices? Okay, selling your home off market. You will never get the highest price if they have a buyer and they have you, the seller, and they just connect you together. The home doesn't even come on the market. You will never get the highest price that way. Never in a million years will you get the highest price that way. But it's easier for the agent, and the agent gets both sides. Selling your home to a builder without even giving a market analysis of what a home buyer would pay. So a lot of folks don't understand how an agent gets paid, and I'm digressing here. I wasn't going to go into this, but it's another data point to explain. When a builder is connected with a seller for a tear down sale, the agent that's connecting them typically doesn't take a fee on the sale of the home to the builder. It might be, the home might be $1 million and the builder is going to pay $1 million for it. The agent doesn't take a fee on that. What the agent does is the builder uses the agent that connected them to sell the eventual home for $4 million, let's say, or $3.5 million. So the agent's being paid on the more expensive home, not on the lower priced home. So it's better for the agent to connect the builder and the seller. but the seller might have been able to get a lot more money for their home coming on the market and selling to a buyer. And often the agent's thinking about, selling the $3.5 million home versus a $1 million home or a $1.2 million home. So be aware of that. Sometimes the bad practices are discounting the fee to sell because they tell you your home doesn't need any marketing or prep or staging. The buyers are out there. They're going to pay a lot of money. Yeah, you'll sell the house, but you'll sell it for a lot lower than what you would get if you did that work. If you allowed the agent, if you didn't discount the fee to the agent and let a standard agent come in and do the prep and do the staging and do the marketing and doing all of that, you're basically getting what you pay for with a discount agent. And, that's a lower sales price. It is absolutely. We see it time and time and time again. I could tell you horror story after horror story. But anyway, another bad practice, and we're seeing a lot of this, unfortunately, accepting an offer prior to the deadline for offers. So a home comes on MLS and it says they're reviewing offers, offers are due Tuesday at 10 a.m., say. And people start seeing it, and people see it on a Friday, and they put in an offer. And maybe it's the listing agent who's shown the home to a buyer who's unrepresented, or maybe it's an agent out of their firm that's shown the home, and they write an offer. And the seller takes it. The seller's not pressured, but if they've got an offer in hand, why would I wait until Tuesday? Well, you should wait until Tuesday because all of the buyers and the buyer's agents are waiting until Tuesday. And rather than have one offer, you might have 10 offers. And I can guarantee if you've got 10 offers, you're selling for a lot more money than a one offer would. This happened just a few weeks ago to one of the agents in our team. Her buyer saw the home on Friday, fantastic, they loved it. They were already planning how much they're going to spend on it and doing comps and doing all of this sort of stuff. And when they called to see whether they could get a pre-inspection done, and I'll explain some of that a bit later, sorry, the house is already under agreement. And someone else in our office had someone who was interested in that home as well. But the shocking part was when the home closed a few weeks later, it closed for such a low price compared to what those two agents buyers in our office, just in our office, were planning on paying. So bad practices, accepting an offer prior to the deadline, it's easier on the agent. They don't have to do open houses. They don't have to coordinate showings, but it won't get you the highest price. The other thing is selling your home as an exclusive listing. You hear that all the time. It's an exclusive listing. And some sellers think, oh, it's exclusive listing. That's really good. That means it's luxury. That means it's really good. No, it's just a brokerage who are behaving badly because they are trying to sell the home within the brokerage and not expose it to the wider marketplace. They might have 3 buyers in their brokerage that would be interested in that home, and versus the 3,000 buyers out there who might be looking in that price range in that general area. So exclusive listing will always get you a lower price for your home. It is great for the brokerage because they get both sides. It's not great for the seller. So it's a bit naughty. Anyway, I should get off that naughty stuff. So what does packing and decluttering mean? It means presenting your home in its best light because that's the key to success. You want the buyers to walk in the door and, as I mentioned before, go, wow, when they're reacting that way, you've just increased the price of the home. And we all have years and years of clutter, too much furniture, closets with things falling out when the doors open. I know I do. So we'll provide you recommendations on what we suggest you do room by room. Living room, do this, do this, do this. They're recommendations. But a lot of people like that because it means that they can go room by room and, okay, I've got this room done, shut the door, or that one's effectively done. On to the next room. If you're storing excess belongings like, boxes that you've packed away and things like this, if you're storing them in a garage or an unfinished basement, get the same size boxes or 2 size boxes, because an organized stacks of boxes is a very, very different message to a buyer when they see them in a room or a garage than higgledy-piggledy boxes and things tossed all over in the corner and things. That's just a chaotic feeling. But when a buyer sees boxes, even in a house, we've sometimes have homes come on the market where there are boxes just stacked against a wall of a family room or, a basement room, a finished room in the basement. We'll put screens over it and things like this. But it shows the buyers that you're organized. And an organized seller screams out to a buyer that if anything's gone wrong with the home, they will have fixed it. They will have fixed it. Higgledy-piggledy, what are we not seeing in this house? So get the same size boxes or plastic tubs. And we call it advanced packing because when your home's under agreement, you're going to have to pack it anyway. So you may as well do it now when you've got a bit more time to do it now. Again, things that you haven't touched for a couple of years, decide on whether they're trashing, maybe they're broken, toss it out. Whether they're donations, can someone find benefits, to recycling some of the things that you've got, selling them. There's lots of places that you can sell, or keeping them. You're taking them to your next house. There's lots of different techniques to sort through those things and to keep it quite sort of, okay, I've got a plan. And that's in a video that we've done on downsizing. It's in the Seller's Masterclass. Downsizing, it tells you how to do it, got additional information where you can donate things and how to do it and all of that sort of stuff. So go and check that out if you'd like. The next one is preparation. So a key piece of information that we need or that you can consider is, are you going to be living in the home while the home's on the market? Some people, a lot of people do. A lot of people don't too. If you don't need to be in the home while it's on the market, like for instance, you've got a second home you're moving to, well, move to it. If you're going to go overseas or you're going to go rent a home as soon as the home's sold, do that now. Put those plans into action now and move out and let us take care of the rest. We'll come in and get what needs to be done to your home and do it all when you're still involved, obviously, but it's less disruption for your family. And it takes the stress off. But a lot of people can't do that. So don't worry if you can't move. We can do this all around you as well. But typically, the highest return on investment we get is with paint and minor repairs. Huge return on investment with paint and minor repairs. So we'll get contractors in for quotes for the work to be done. We've been using quite a few different trades, painters. We've got a crew of about 3 painters that we use consistently. We've been using them for years and they're really responsive. they're reasonably priced. They know that if we get them in to do a quote, we need them to get we need to get on their schedule basically immediately, or when it works for the seller, but typically as soon as possible. They also know, and this is important, if they don't perform or we have poor feedback from our sellers about how they've behaved or things like this, we won't be recommending them in the future. So they're on their best behavior. I shouldn't say that. They're pretty good because they know that we recommend them week after week after week. So they want to do the right thing by our clients. We know their pricing and we know if they're inflating quotes. Now, we don't typically have that happen, but we have a listing manager that organises the quotes, and she sees the quotes coming in day after day after day from these chaps. And I did hear her on the phone probably about 2 years ago, so it doesn't happen very often. And she was talking to one of the contractors, and she said, I don't understand. I just got your quote in, but we did a home that we did the same thing, same size, everything like this about 3 weeks ago. Why is this quote more expensive? And she got him down to, a price that she was happy and comfortable with, knowing what others were quoting as well. So we don't just take their quotes and just pass them on to you. We sanity check them as well. But we also, you're the one who chooses the contractors and the schedule for work. It's not our call, it's yours, because sometimes you might find that you got a better feeling from one, or you liked what one of them had to say versus another. One of the things that we've started doing in the last couple of years, and we're doing a lot more of, is we can pay for the work to be done, and then we just get reimbursed at closing. We create a budget for the work based on your chosen quotes, and there's no interest and no additional charges to you. It's so important to us because we see how much more a home will sell for with some of this cosmetic work done, that if someone doesn't have the money or or the cash to be able to do it, we're happy to pay for it and just get reimbursed because it's better for you. It gets a higher price for you, and that's, it's word of mouth. Anyway, we also project manage the work being done. Our listing manager is in homes, if they're vacant homes, she's in there every second or third day, making sure that the contractors are doing what was quoted on, and once they say they're finished, she goes in and double checks that, yes, you've done this. Oh no, we need this, done, you missed that. So it's not just, I was trying to think of a phrase then. We manage it. We project manage it. Or if you want to do the work and organise it yourselves, we can provide you the names of the contractors, and you can contact them and organise it and that sort of stuff. That's okay. So do we charge for that? Nope. There's no additional charge for this service. It's just so important to do, though, and will get you a higher price for the home. So it's word of mouth, as I mentioned before. If you have a really positive experience, you're going to tell your friends that you had a really positive experience and that type of thing. And we, it's important to do. So the next thing, staging. Our staging manager, Sorry, it's Coke Zero. That's okay that I'm drinking that. Our staging manager visits to recommend packing and furniture placement. So we'll recommend things as well. And if there's too much furniture in a room, sometimes they find that if there's too much furniture in a room and we need something in another room, we can just relocate it to the other room and it fills out that room a little bit better. There's a whole lot to it. A summary of the recommendations will be sent to you after the visit within about 24 hours. We try and do that. If you need heavy things moved around the home, we can provide you the contact info of the movers that we use. They charge on an hourly basis. We have been using our current set of movers for about 5 or 6 years now, and we use them almost every week. Well, sometimes 3 times a week, sometimes 4 times a week. We use them regularly and they're reliable, responsible, nice people. If it's a vacant home, we stage every room, not just 3 rooms, we stage every room. Because a lot of buyers don't have spatial awareness. They don't know how big a room is until there's reference furniture in a room. So a bedroom, if there's a king-size bed in it, oh, this is a big room. Whereas if there's nothing in it, they don't really know how big the room is. If the home is an occupied home, we stage every room with supplemental furniture if needed. You know, accent pieces, bedding, towels, lamps, matching bedside tables. We bring in supplemental furniture to what you've already got. But one of the things is if you're not taking a piece of furniture with you to your next home, then get rid of it now while you've got time to do that. And then let's say there was a home that we did where the dining room table was broken and they weren't using it and it was just sort of sitting in the dining room broken, basically. We said, get rid of it. You know, get rid of it. We'll bring in a dining room table and chairs. No problems. We'll bring them in. So it's all about you've got time to find homes, whether it's selling it, whether it's donating it, whether it's trashing it, all of this sort of stuff. You've got time to find homes for those pieces of furniture now versus let's say your home's under agreement and there's 4 weeks till closing. Well, not only do you have to find homes for those pieces of furniture that you're not taking with you, but you've got to pack everything else. So doing it now takes the pressure off you a little bit later. So on staging day, our stagers arrive with a truck, sorry, I was just looking to see how long I've been. Okay, they arrive with a truck and movers and stage your home. Now, need to sort of also clarify here. We typically stage a home no later than the Friday before coming on the market the following Thursday. Now, if it's an occupied home, we're bringing bedding in, we're bringing towels in, we're bringing all those sorts of things. Well, after we come in to do the digital assets, we come in and do those immediately we're finished staging. So take them off the bed or take the towels off the things and put them aside and live normally in your home for the next 4 or 5 days and then just put them back out again the day the home comes on the market. So, you know, it's an easy process to do. But so remove the bedding prior to sleeping in the bed. Please don't sleep in our bedding or our pillows. And then if you are living in the home and the home's on the market, put all of our bedding back on again before you go off to work. Decorative towels. We do ask that they're not used. Have yours still there and just put yours away in a closet, you know, when you leave to go to work. In the time between the digital assets and coming on the market, you can clean out your closets at that point in time because our photos and 3D tour typically don't go into closets. I mean, most closets are not walk-in closets. So you can stuff them full of things that you haven't managed to pack away yet. And then after we've taken the photos, then you can just start sorting through the closets and packing them in boxes and getting them out. With our furnishings, if you can keep them clean and just let us know of any breakages. You'll be sent an itemized list of furnishings used in your home. It will show a cost on it, but it's not charged. We're using software that has just attributable cost for us to. Anyway, you're not charged for it, so don't panic about that. When you get that, we do let you know when we send that to you that you're not charged for it. The home is destaged shortly after purchase and sale. We do wait and keep all the furniture in there until we get to purchase and sale, because very rarely does a home sale fall through after purchase and sale. So we feel pretty safe to take the furniture out after we're at purchase and sale. And if something does happen, okay, we bring the furniture back again. Other agents make the seller pay for this service, or they don't do it and they don't recommend it to be done. So what about us? No, there's no additional charge for this service. This is just something, again, that if a home is staged, it makes a huge difference to the buyers who walk in the door. I can tell you story after story after story. If you get to know me, you'll know that I tell you a lot of stories. Anyway, marketing. So as I mentioned before, on the day of staging, digital assets are taken. We do ask that no one's home during this time. So why is that? So we always do a 3D tour. We've had the equipment ourselves for about 6 years. We own two cameras that do the 3D tour. Now, if you're talking about a room that's connected to another room with a door, there's a door, let's say it's a French door. When we're doing this room, the camera might be put in that room in, say, 3 places to do a scan, a 360 scan. And then outside of that room, let's say there's a hallway or there's another whatever, and the camera is put around that room. If somebody's been at home during that time and they've gone through that doorway, and when this room was being scanned, that doorway was at 45 degrees open, and then when they're scanning this way in the doorway, it was at 90 degrees open because someone went through, it can't marry the rooms up together. So it takes us a lot more time to do a 3D tour. Means that you're out of the house for longer, all of this sort of stuff, if we have issues while we're doing it. So it's better that nobody's at home. We've learned that the hard way. It's better that nobody's at home when we're doing that. We also do a video presenting your home to the buyers. We do 42 photos, a minimum of 42 photos. Why 42? MLS allows 42 photos to be on MLS. So when you see a home on MLS that has 12 photos on it, and I can guarantee you'll find them. You'll find some with 4 photos. They could do 42 photos, but they're choosing not to. We do a minimum of 42. If the house is bigger and needs more than 42, we put the rest of the photos on the website that we do. We do a floor plan, a schematic floor plan, as well as a floor plan that shows the furniture placement in the room, which again gives scale. We do a high quality brochure, and we do a website based on the address of your home. It's might be a home 123 Main Street, 123main.com, or you get the idea. We do social media ad campaigns on Facebook and Instagram. We do targeted emails. We've been doing open houses for many, many years, and every buyer who's been to an open house in each price range and each town we have that data. So if we're bringing a home on the market in a town, then we send a targeted email out to the buyers who have been to open houses in that same price range in the last years. Give them all the information. The more information we can get out there to buyers who have shown interest in the price range and the town that your home is in, the more activity we get on the home. We need a minimum of 4 days to create all of these things and come on the market on a Thursday. So our last day that we like to do this is a Friday. Sometimes we can stretch it to a Monday prior to coming on the Thursday, but typically it's Friday. So that's marketing. So we would, giving this presentation in person a couple of weeks ago, and questions arose about the ROI. Do we have data? Pretty difficult to have real numbers. But from what we've seen, we see that if we spend, say, about $5,000 on prep, painting, touch-up paint, things like this, it typically equates to approximately a $50,000 increase in price. So it is, when I say it's a huge ROI, it's a huge ROI. If you think about it, most buyers don't know how much something is going to cost to do. They just don't know how much things cost. And what happens is if they go in and they see something needing to be done, they're now attributing $20,000 to paint 2 rooms. And that's nowhere near that. This might be $2,000. But they're attributing $20,000 because they don't know any actual costs. So now they're deducting $20,000 off how much they're willing to pay for your home because they have to spend $20,000 to paint these 2 rooms. So buyers always, I was going to say quadruple, but that's multiplying it by 4. Multiplying it by 10, they increase the cost a lot. And when something doesn't need to be done, they're willing to pay that much more money for a home. So spending $5,000 on doing some paint will give us easily $50,000 increase in sales price. So what we also see, and we've got the data for this, is we see a 3% increase, in sale price to list price ratio from just the staging and marketing perspective. Now, what's the sale price to list price ratio? If a home comes on the market for $1 million and sells for $1 million, it's 100% sale price to list price ratio. If it sells for $1,030,000, it's 103% sale price to list price ratio. So let's talk about a home of $1 million sale price, and you're talking about a 3% increase in the sale price to list price ratio. That equates to about $30,000 difference just from the staging and marketing alone. And we have this in our professional fees brochure, and this is homes in 2022, 42 photos. Other agents, other homes that came on the market in that year, only 25% of them have 42 photos. We do 100% with those. The floor plan, they do better with the floor plan. 70% of them had floor plans. 100% of ours do. The video, 12%, only 12% did it, 100% of ours do. The 3D tour, 12% of the others did it, 100% of ours do. But the average sale price to list price ratio for the other homes in that town was 106%, and our average sale price to list price ratio was 109%. Now, we don't have staging documented in these metrics only because when we're looking at photos of a home, we don't know whether it's the seller's furniture that just looks stunning or whether it's staging furniture. So we'd prefer not to have inaccurate information in here. So this is that without a tributary amount for staging. But let's look at this a little bit further. So just from a marketing and staging perspective, it's a 3% difference in average sale price to list price ratio. But what about the preparation, staging and marketing making a difference? Now, we talked about before, if we spend $5,000 on a home, we can get a $50,000 increase in sale price. So let's say for that $1 million home that we were talking about, you're looking at potentially an $80,000 increase in sales price, because we're talking about the $30,000 going from 106 to 109%, and we're looking at $50,000 by spending $5,000 to do the work. Now, there's not many homes in the area that are $1 million, but it puts it into perspective and puts it some scale on the numbers when we talk about $1 million. Well, what about if we spend $10,000 on prep? What if the home is a $1.5 million home? The numbers add up. It makes a huge difference. So let's get on to something else now. Sorry, I'm just going to have another drink. Okay, pricing strategy. Here's the fun stuff. I like the fun stuff. So does the pricing strategy matter? Yeah, it really matters. Found these two photos that I thought are fairly representative. If you've come on the market overpriced, you might get one or two people that are a little interested, not sure. How much can I buy this home for? How much lower can I go to get this home? If you've priced it realistically, doesn't have to be pricing lower. If you're priced realistically, you've got lots and lots of buyer activity. Buyer activity creates other buyer activity. If they're seeing lots of people at the open house, they're seeing it's difficult to make a private showing because there are so many private showings on the home. All of these sorts of things, that means that buyers are willing to pay a lot more for your home than the asking price. You can imagine which of these two reactions, lots and lots of interest and ho-hum interest, which one's going to get you the highest price? It's a no-brainer. And we see that on a day-to-day basis. But let's look at some data as well. And we're data people. COVID was one of the busiest periods of time in selling real estate, mass migrations across the country. But even in a huge seller's market during COVID, this was a town in the area, it was Lexington actually, and even with that huge market that we had, a huge seller's market that we had, 28% of the homes sold for below the asking price. 28% sold for below the asking price. 72% sold for above, or asking price or above. What were those 28% doing? Well, they weren't prepping their home. They weren't staging their home. They were overpricing their home. It wasn't being marketed. These things play an important role. So don't just assume that you can bring your home on the market, not do anything to it, and it will sell for lots of offers. It doesn't. 28% of sellers found that out the hard way in 2022. Typically, a normal market that's not COVID, 50% sell for below the asking price and 50% sell above. That's not a median that's on average 50%, sometimes it's 48% and 52%, sometimes it's 45% and 55%, around 50% do. But what's the impact with not selling the first weekend or not selling with competing offers? So this is a graph. You'll see the 100% line here. You'll see that the first few days, and this is real data too, and it's across multiple towns, and this was about 5 years ago, I think this data was pulled. But you'll see that the first few days of a home coming on the market, that's when you'll get the highest sale price to list price ratio. And the longer your home is on the market, you've got the days on the market axis down here, the trend line heads down. The longer you're on the market, the less you get for your home. Because most buyers consider that if a home doesn't sell the first weekend, it's overpriced. Because if nobody made an offer on it, and there's so many buyers out there, because it's a seller's market, that home's overpriced. It didn't sell. So already the second weekend the home is on the market, the buyers are now planning how much lower they can go. And the longer the home's on the market, that price is lower and lower and lower. But let's sort of talk about the buyer psychology in both of those two scenarios. So the top one, competing offers, and the bottom one's the home's been on the market for a few weeks or more. So when you've got competing offers, the seller is the one who decides on which offer to accept. Because the seller's got a few choices, a few offers in to choose from. So if you're making an offer on a home, understand what the sellers want. The sellers want the highest sales price and the least amount of risk. So your terms and conditions that a seller gets with competing offers are far more desirable than what they get if the home's been on the market for a while. I typically say that if we get 5 offers or more, 50% of them are coming in without an inspection contingency. And if we get 10 offers or more, 75% of them are coming in with no inspection contingency, and 50% are waiving the mortgage contingency. Doesn't mean that they're cash buyers, they're just not making their offer contingent on getting a mortgage. That's the difference. So a buyer who's in a competing offer situation needs to write an offer with all of this in mind. Least amount of risk, highest price. And it's the best chance for a seller to get over market value for their home. That's the best chance, first weekend. If the home has been on the market for a few weeks or more, well, now the buyer is in the driver's seat. They're able to write an offer that suits the buyer, not the seller. The longer the negotiations go on, the more annoyed both sides get with each other. And sometimes it just doesn't happen. Because if they're countering with this and countering with that and countering with this, both buyer and seller are getting pretty annoyed with each other. So can't let the negotiations drag on for days. And at that point in time, when you're thinking as a seller, there's more chance another home will come on the market and the buyer changes their mind. So you've got to act while they still love it, while they're negotiating with you, and they still love the home. That's the best time to try and get the best you can get with having overpriced the home to begin with. It's really important, because if something else comes on the market, now you're waiting another few weeks for someone else to come in and see the home and maybe decide that they want the home, but now more time's gone past as well. So in this, we're still on the pre-listing phase. Can you believe that? There's a lot involved in this. There is a lot involved in this. We need to verify the accuracy of information. We'll ask you for information about your home prior to it coming on the market. Try and fill us in. And it's not necessarily, when were things updated and when all of this. why did you fall in love with your home? You know, what is there around your neighborhood that you really love that we may not know about? And we'll incorporate it into anything that we're creating for your home's marketing, the feature sheet, the website, MLS. Sometimes if we get a lot of information for a seller, we create an information sheet and we add it to MLS so that all the buyers have access to it. We'll send a draft feature sheet to you for your review. And this is your chance to catch any mistakes that we've made or misrepresenting something, you know. It's your chance to catch that. As soon as your home's live in MLS, though, we'll send you the listing information to again have you verify and validate that the information's correct. It's really important to have correct information for us. So now, what happens when we come on the market? Guess what? We verify the accuracy of the information again. Because the information that's in MLS is what the buyers will be using to decide on an offer. They're using the information that we've provided to write their offer, so it needs to be accurate. And one of the things that we want to know is, do you have a preferred closing date? Because depending on the market that we're in and we've realistically priced, if you would prefer to close August the 15th, then the buyers, even if that doesn't work for the buyers, they're going to write their offer with an August 15th date because they want you to take their offer, not somebody else's. So they'll give you what you want. Then private showings will start to happen. The most serious buyers have buyer's agents, and typically they will request a private showing. So in the first 5 days your home's on the market, and hopefully it's no more than 5 days. I know that sounds like a really, really short period of time, but it's vital to allow as many private showings as possible because they are the serious buyers. We use HomeSnap for showing requests to come in, and then the seller can confirm or decline them. If you're not living in the home, we set it up so that they're automatically confirmed. Have the temperature pleasant. What do I mean by that? I had a seller once who lived in his home at 62 degrees. It was cold. Winter, we need to say the winter. And when buyers were coming in to see the home, they would be very, very quick because they weren't comfortable in the home. They, have the temperature set to something like 71 or 72 so that it's pleasant for buyers to stay longer in the home. Have the lights on. Toilet seats down. The bed's made. Yeah. The beds need to be made. Dishes done. I have turned up to an open house and there was a pile of dishes in the sink and on the bench. The sellers hadn't done the dishes before they left, and I turned up with some buyers. It doesn't set a good tone for the house. But it's vital for the buyers to feel comfortable in your home and imagine their lives living there. I know that if I'm showing a home to a buyer, and my buyers want to sit down on the sofa and just mull the home, they love the home. And if we can do that, if a buyer wants to do this, they're feeling comfortable in the home, we need to let them, do that. So you shouldn't be home or arrive home while the showing's happening. It's really important because the whole key is the comfort level that the buyer has imagining their lives living in the home. Where you've got pictures of the current family living in the home. The buyers need to be able to imagine themselves living in the home, not look at photos and see who currently lives in the home. That doesn't help them imagine themselves living in the home. So there's all of these little things that are important. But yeah. And open houses. On the first weekend, the Saturday, we do 1 till 3 with live music and cookies. Now, why is that star next to the live music? Well, if we're selling a small home or a condo and we have a guitarist or a musician, a pianist in there, it's crowding the room, it's crowding the home and making it feel smaller. So we do, if a home's about 2,000 square feet or more, yeah, we'll have the guitarist and the musician. If it's 1,500 square feet, no, it's going to cram things too. But we have cookies, and the Sunday we have cookies as well. This is really important, and I don't know why other agents don't do this, but I don't want them to know that we do this. Well, I guess they see it if they're turning up to our open houses. But a lot of kids are dragged house after house after house, going and having a look at open houses. And we often hear the kids coming in, we used to often hear the kids coming in, Mom, do we have to do this? I'm tired, let's go. Always you would hear this because they're going from house after house after house. We have cookies. The kids love it, and so do the parents. And it gives them joy, it does. But you know what it also does? When the parents are driving away from the house with the kids in the back and the kids are happy, and the parents say, what did you think of that house, kids? We love it. You know that's what they're saying. So it's reinforcing that positive experience that the whole family had in the home just by a tray of cookies. If we need the next weekend, we'll do Sunday 1 till 3 with cookies. If we need additional weekends after that, we contract the time to an hour, because on 3 weekends later, we're only getting 1 or 2 or 3 buyers coming through. And if we have a 2-hour open house, more often than not, 1 buyer is going to be in the house wandering around and the house is echoing. So we try and contract the time so that there's a chance that they might bump into other buyers in the home. But if we're still doing open houses after 3 weeks, then we really need to look at a price adjustment, because the buyers have already decided your home's overpriced. So there's that. But that's all talking about strategies. There's different techniques for it of how we can mitigate it if it's overpriced. And we know that immediately because our listing dashboard gives us that information of the real-time stats when your home's on the market. Oh, yeah, and the next slide's about the listing dashboard. It keeps you informed, and especially during the on-market phase. It's got the open house attendees, how many there were, what the feedback was, but the metrics are important. It gives you real-time metrics on how many views of the 3D tour, the floor plan, the video, the website, the feature sheets. And what the metrics are that if we get 30 plus views of the 3D tour on each of the first 2 days on the market, that correlates tightly with 20 plus private showings for the 5 days. And that correlates tightly with 2 plus offers on the home on the Tuesday. So in the first couple of days your home's on the market, how it's performing against the metrics that give an indication of whether we're going to have competing offers. So it's important information to have. Pre-inspections. We love these. We do. But these pre-inspections are done while the home is on the market between the Thursday and the Tuesday, which is when we're reviewing offers. So the buyers are paying money to have an inspector come in for either a consultation or a full inspection, but they're paying money so that their offer can come in with no inspection contingency. So we know that the buyer is serious about the home and wants to make an offer with no inspection contingency. So a pre-inspection is really, really good to allow because it's just giving. Most buyers feel very uncomfortable buying a home without an inspection. Well, okay, in a seller's market, it's pretty difficult to have an offer accepted with an inspection contingency. So this is one way of giving the buyers a little bit more of a comfort level of being able to make an offer with no inspection contingency. We do ask that the agents do not tell us the results of the inspection, because we can go into a whole lot of stuff about disclosures there. But we don't want to know what the inspector has found. We just don't. Offers. We ask for them to come in on a Tuesday. Typically, I do 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. The process is to get back to every agent and let them know how many offers and request buyers best and final 2 or 3 hours later. We specify how we handle offers in a document that we attach to MLS as well, because that's being completely transparent to the buyers and buyers' agents. They know exactly how it's going to work, because there's a lot of loosey-goosey ways of how agents handle offers, and most of it's not very well done. And people they completely have no idea how an agent's going to handle offers. We give the agents that information up front. This is how offers are going to happen. This is what you can expect. And it's funny, we also have the last line of that. I don't know if you recall, we mentioned bad practices, not accepting an offer before the deadline. The last line of this document is under no circumstances will an offer be accepted prior to the offer deadline, because there's too many times where agents do that bad practice, and it disrespects the buyers and it disrespects the buyers' agents who are doing the right thing and waiting. So that's, I can get on a soapbox about this, but anyway. After best and final, we should get together either in person or Zoom and go over the offers. I will have put them into a spreadsheet and we go over the pros and cons of each offer. Then you get to choose an offer. You don't have to take the highest price. You don't have to take the highest price. I had a seller just 6 months ago. There was an offer that came in, and it was from a developer. And the second offer, which was $35K less than the developer, was from a young family. And the sellers had lived in the home for about 40 or 50 years. They took the $35K less one. That was fantastic. And that was, to me, that's so important, because keeping the history and to me, a home can tell so many stories, and there's so many memories in a home. And, you know, it's important to keep that housing stock where it's affordable for most people. It's important to keep that. Anyway, I'm getting on another soapbox. Once an offer is chosen, you can choose which offer you want to take. We ask the buyer's agent for the final amended paperwork, and then the seller signs it. I've got in here that it's important that this is done the same day, and why. So I mentioned before that we have a document attached to MLS that explains how we handle offers. Most agents handle offers differently, but the majority of agents, and I hear this from our buyers agents in our team, the majority of agents don't give any feedback as to whether there's any other offers, or prior to someone writing an offer or giving people a best and final chance, they just say, get an offer to me by 12 noon, and that's it. And the buyer has to decide how much they're going to ask, because it's a one-time shot. You know, are there other offers? Are there 10 other offers? But what if there's no other offers? So a buyer is going to be much more conservative in what their offer is, because they might be offering against themselves. They're the only offer. But even if there's 8 offers on a home, most agents don't go back to the unsuccessful buyers and tell them that they haven't been successful. They never hear from the agent again. So when a buyer goes to bed at night and they haven't heard from the agent about whether they were successful or not successful, they start knowing that they haven't got the house. So they start talking themselves out of loving the house. Well, we're probably lucky that we didn't get the house. I didn't like the fact that it was so close to the highway. You know, the highway wasn't that far away and you'd probably hear noise, or this, well, I really would have liked a 2-car garage. And yeah, the 1-car garage we could have managed, but they start talking themselves out of why they loved the house. Now, if we just haven't made a decision that night and we go back to an offer the next morning and say, hey, you got the house, they've already talked themselves out of it because they didn't think that they were going to hear from us, so they talked themselves out of it. So it's really important to get back to them same day. I've seen that happen many times. So it's really important. Some more tips. Booties. All of this information is provided to you through the whole process, by the way. It's all provided to you through the whole process, step by step by step. But this is just a summary of each step in one big bang. It's your call as to whether we provide it. There have been cases in the past where a buyer has slipped with some booties on and sued the seller. Not with us, but there's case law out there. So, you know, it's your choice. Cameras. If you've got them in the house, it's illegal to record someone without their permission. And to be honest, even if you've got cameras in the house, disconnect them, turn them around, something like that while the home's on the market, because it makes buyers very uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. I once hosted an open house, and it was about halfway through the open house, and I kept having buyers looking sort of behind me as I was talking to them. And I turned around and I saw a camera up there, and I thought, oh, it's making people feel so uncomfortable. I hadn't spotted it before that, so I turned it around and so that it faced the wall. But the goal of an open house or having buyers in your home is to have them feel comfortable. Remember, you want them to imagine sitting on the sofa, imagining their life, living in the home. They can't do that when there's cameras there, so don't do that. Take them down while the house is on the market. Accepted offer. We're getting there. We're nearly there. Gosh, there's so much to this, and trying to sort of do it in one hit. Accepted offer. So there's 3 main stages: accepting an offer, purchase and sale, and closing. And in between those different steps, you often have an inspection or a mortgage. As I mentioned before, sometimes you don't have an inspection contingency, and sometimes you don't have a mortgage contingency. So sometimes you go from accepted offer to purchase and sale in 3 days. Typically, I want 3 days. Closing depends on when you'd like to close, etc. But the money at the accepted offer phase between $1,000 and $10,000 is, I always ask for a $10K initial deposit if there's no inspection contingency, because I don't want the buyer changing their mind before purchase and sale. At purchase and sale, typically it's the balance of a 5% deposit, and then more often than not you have a mortgage contingency. But mortgage contingencies, there's not too many times that a mortgage will fall apart, that an offer will fall apart in the mortgage. So there's less risk with that than there is an inspection contingency. And I'll explain a bit more. So the initial deposit, typically $1,000. If no inspection, we ask for a larger deposit. The inspection contingency could be 5 to 10 days after the offer. If there's problems, the buyers can negotiate or exit the agreement, and they get their deposit back. Why do I say that the inspection contingency is a bigger problem than mortgage contingency? Because buyer's remorse, it's a real thing. As soon as, it doesn't matter how many times you've done this, you get the you've got the house, fantastic, okay, really good. Oh, did I pay too much? Is it the right house? Would we like living there? All of these sorts of things go through a buyer's mind. So it's a real thing. We want the buyers putting purchase and sale down 1 to 3 days after the offer process. Typically, if it's going directly from offer to purchase and sale, it's 3 days. If there's an inspection contingency, it can be as quick as 1 day after the inspection contingency date. Typically, the deposit of 5% of purchase price minus the initial deposit. Attorney costs, well, to draw up the purchase and sale, they cost, each one's different and how they charge is different, but, $500 to $1,500. But it's really, really, really important to use a good attorney, not the cheapest. And they get paid out of closing costs. Good attorneys are so valuable. There's lots of time. A lot of the stress associated with buying a home or selling a home can be mitigated by the quality of the attorney. Seriously. So after the purchase and sale, the buyer submits a mortgage application if they have a mortgage contingency. The mortgage contingency date's approximately 4 weeks later. The buyer can exit the contract if they don't get financing and they still get their full deposit back. But it's not because the buyer have changed their mind, because they can't change their mind and get out with the mortgage contingency, because the bank have to provide a denial of financing document for them to get their deposit back. So it's not buyer's remorse, it's something happened to their finances, they lost a job, something like that, that meant that they couldn't get a mortgage. Closing can be 7+ days after the mortgage contingency date, where the remaining balance of the purchase price is paid out, and closing costs. The offer deposit and purchase and sale deposit are held in escrow until closing. We're getting there. A few more points. Lead paint. Lead paint is mandated by federal jurisdiction laws. Lead paint was banned from use in 1978, but there are health risks, particularly to children under 6 years old. If someone's done a lead paint test on their home with a lead paint inspector, that information is recorded on the lead paint registry, so it's publicly available data. The lead paint disclosure, it's really important to have the buyer executed lead paint prior to accepting an offer to know if they're waiving a lead paint test or plan to do a lead paint test. That's an important one, and we can explain that in a separate thing. That's going to take another hour to explain, so I can't do that. But you can call or email. Purchase and sale. Again, I mentioned the attorney is key, and an attorney is required to buy or sell a home in Massachusetts. It's important to have a real estate attorney, not an estate attorney, not a criminal attorney. It's got to be a real estate attorney. It'll be much smoother, less stress. They're familiar with all the forms, all the regs, all the zoning, all the insurance, all of this sort of stuff. As with lenders, we have a list of recommended attorneys. We've used a lot, and we've done a lot of buys and sells with a lot of attorneys, and we have what we consider as the best 3 as our recommended attorneys. Don't quibble on price when you're selecting an attorney, because you're purchasing or selling the most expensive asset that you own. You need the best representation to do that, and to do it safely. And I do say safely. you need a good one. Good attorneys protect their clients, and poor attorneys create more stress and leave their clients exposed to all sorts of issues moving forward. The seller's attorney creates the purchase and sale based on the offer, but it's full of legalese in it. And then the two attorneys, the buyer's attorney and the seller's attorney, negotiate the purchase and sale until it's final. Both attorneys should explain the terms of the purchase and sale to their clients before the final is confirmed. The buyer typically signs first and provides the deposit, and if closing is within 2 weeks, which is very rare because that indicates that it's an actual cash offer and you wanted a closing within 2 weeks, if it is one of those, we require a bank check and then the seller signs at that. So there's some other things that happen between purchase and sale and closing. The obvious one is start packing. If an inspection had required and was negotiated to have some repairs done to the home, get them done and keep the receipts. Provide copies to your agent, because we have to provide them at closing to show that those items had been done. The staging materials are picked up after purchase and sale. We need to get smoke and carbon monoxide inspections. They're valid for 60 days, so it's got to be within 60 days of closing. So if you've got a long closing, we need to wait on those. We have a whole process of how they're done and what the requirements are and things like this. We do fuel adjustment readings if it's oil or propane. If it's a condo, we require a 6D statement after the final condo fee is paid, because that 6D statement is saying that the condo owner doesn't owe any funds to the condo association. So if the 6D is done before the last condo fees due, then yeah, they do owe some money. So it's got to be done after the final condo fee has been paid. Final water readings within 7 days of closing, and the listing agent provides all of that paperwork to the closing attorney. So what is the closing attorney? What happens in closing? Walkthrough. Don't leave paints and items for the home behind unless the buyer has agreed to them. Some people very thoughtfully will say, well, this paint, I've got this paint here, I better leave it for the new buyers, or I've got some tiles that have been used in the bathroom that was done 40 years ago, I should leave them for the buyers. No, unless you've asked through your agent if the buyer wants those left behind, they need to go. If we have to get a junk removal company in because the buyer's agent has found junk left behind, and they term this junk, if we've got to get a junk removal company in like in an hour, it's very expensive. So just do it as you're moving. Walkthrough happens after the seller has moved out. Most often it's done the morning of closing. Some buyers will do it on their way to closing. It's purely to determine if there's trash or debris or furniture left behind, or things that were taken that were not meant to be taken. Like I had an instance where we bought a home that the washer and dryer were included. And guess what? They took the washer and dryer. So we got on to the agent and the sellers bought the washer and dryer back again before closing. Damage. Is there damage to the home that wasn't there when the offer was made? And again, if repair work was negotiated as part of the inspection, the buyers need to confirm that it was done. And sometimes if it's something that's not easily identifiable by looking at it, like servicing the furnace, having an invoice for the work, it needs to be provided. The buyer's agent will notify the listing agent and the buyer attorney if problems have been found. So I always find that as a listing agent, if I go to walkthrough, then the buyer and buyer's agent ask the seller to fix or address a lot more things than they do if I don't go to walkthrough, because she's right there. I want to ask that agent now, get your sellers to do this, this, and this. Sure, let me just sort of get on to that. Whereas if you're not there and it's something minor, they're not, get your seller to do this. They're just, oh, well, don't worry about it, that type of thing. So it's important. I've found that it's important not to be there through walkthrough, because it generates a lot more for the seller to fix, because the buyers are unhappy or the buyer's agent's unhappy about something. Anyway, closing. Common locations, the registry of deeds, or the closing attorney's office. It's pretty uncommon for both sellers and buyers to be present these days. It actually started being uncommon prior to COVID, but then during COVID, no, they were never together, and now still never together, because sometimes the seller signs things in advance. The buyer has to go to closing, because they've got to sign the mortgage paperwork and then the deed, and then the deed's got to be recorded, that sort of stuff. Keys, which often catches people out, is the keys can't be provided to the buyer until the deed is recorded in the registry. So don't close on a Friday, because if, say, for instance, and this is more advice for a buyer in particular with that, don't close on a Friday because, well, no, there's two things, buyer and seller. If there's been a delay in that the bank haven't provided the mortgage paperwork until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and the buyer's there quickly scrambling to sign things, they've missed getting it recorded to the registry, because it has to physically be recorded at the registry, which means they can't get the keys to the home. Now, that's a problem if they've got a moving truck scheduled to arrive the next morning. They haven't got keys to the home. So sometimes if there's a delay recording it, sometimes they have to put in an emergency use and occupancy agreement between the buyer and the seller, so that it gives the buyer access to the home, but the buyer's responsible for any damages done to the home in that period of time of that use and occupancy, because the seller still owns the home until it's recorded at the registry. So that's why the keys are not handed over. But the thing about don't close on a Friday, unfortunately, this has become a little bit more, not common, but over the last decade, I think there was some statistics, 96% of bank failures happen on a Friday. This is when the FDIC typically take over a bank on a Friday. So if you're closing on a Friday and the FDIC is taking over a bank, and it's either the bank that's providing the funds or the bank that's receiving the funds, or the attorney's bank, because the money's got to get from the closing attorney to the seller's, it's got to go a lot of ways. If one of those banks is impacted by an FDIC takeover, then that's closing finished for that day. And maybe, not going to say anything else, but yeah, it's a scary time when that happens. Attorney fees, well, closing costs. There's attorney's fees, and you've negotiated what they are with your attorney when you engaged with them. Massachusetts tax stamp or a transfer tax, it's $4.56 per $1,000 of sale price. There's a recording fee, it's not much. The mortgage is also paid off as part of closing. There's the listing fee. This is the fee for selling that is split between the buyer and the buyer's agent's company and the listing agent's company, and any reimbursements for work that's done by the listing company. Now, even if we don't need to do minor repairs or some smartening up of your home, if you're overseas and we need the final water bill paid off and we need to get smoke and carbons certificates, there's money that we're paying out on your behalf. Well, then that gets reimbursed at closing as well. We do have a blog post on our website that goes over closing costs for both buyers and sellers too. So if you wanted to find more information about that, you can get that there, or you can call or email. Additional considerations. We're almost finished. Condos. If we're bringing on a condo, we need electronic versions of the rules and regs, master deed, master insurance info, meeting minutes, financials, condo fee, what it covers, assessments, parking specifics. Some of this stuff we can get from the registry, but more often than not, sellers have electronic versions of them. So just send what you have to us, because we do need to provide that information on MLS and for attorney review of the condo docs. The multifamily, how many units are in the multifamily? We also need to know whether they're all, how many of them are owner occupied. So if it's a condo development, how many condos are in the development? How many are owner occupied? That has impacts for financing, for the buyer's mortgage things. Tear downs. I sort of mentioned a little bit about this before, but I thought that this was valuable to sort of throw this in here. Even if your home could be a tear down, it's really worth bringing the home on the market. So here's a few examples. This one is a home that came on the market for $1,025,000, and it had competing offers from builders, and there were some home buyers in there as well, and it ended up selling for $1,443,500. And then the builder bought the home on the market for 4.3. So, you know, it was a tear down, because you can see the same address. But this is really important. So a few doors down, about a month prior, a home was sold directly to a builder with no competition, because it was just from seller to builder, and the builder bought it for $1,150,000. Same size lot, 3 doors down, I think 3 or 4 doors down, for $1,150,000. This seller, bringing it on the market, got $1,443,500. They got almost $300,000 more bringing it on the market and letting the builders compete. So don't sell it directly to a builder. It's benefits the agent, not you, not the seller. Here's another one. The builders competed. This is at 15 Finney Road. Builders competed. It came on for $1,025,000, sold for $1,271,000. A builder bought it on the market a year later, or sometime later, for $3.2 million. Here's another one. This was a few years ago. This came on the market for $1,150,000, sold for $1,261,000. Interestingly enough, our builder offered a higher price than that. So it's not. Our builder offered a higher price than that, but that's okay. We can tell you stories about that. And the home came on the market for $4,650,000. So the builder got a good deal. So that, bring it on the market. Don't just sell it off market. Additional considerations. Are all your permits closed out? I know you probably contacted contractors, licensed contractors who are meant to close them out. Did they? Because that will cause problems when it's time for purchase and sale. So sometimes we've had to get our sellers to contact their contractors that did the job 10 years ago, no, 5 years ago to try and find it if they're still in business, to get them to close out the contract and to close out the permit, and that will require a building inspector to come out. Do you need to pay flood insurance? We need to know that before the home comes on the market, because that will impact the buyers. If the buyers don't know about that and it's found during purchase and sale, which is when it will be found anyway, sometimes buyers will then pull out because it wasn't something that they expected. Has a lead paint test been done previously and lead paint found? Don't do a test, but we will do a check of the lead paint registry prior to bringing a home on the market to see if one's been done, because often it might have been a seller before you that had had one done and didn't mitigate it, and unfortunately you didn't know when you bought the home that a lead paint had been done. Anyway, we can go into that all a lot. Condo docs. A seller's disclosure. Seller's disclosure, Massachusetts is a voluntary disclosure state. You don't need to disclose. You can, but you don't need to disclose. 50% do, 50% don't. A seller addendum is something that we generate, and we ask the buyers to sign it before, as they're submitting an offer, and it just lets us know if they have a home to sell, and there are ramifications if they haven't told us that there's a home to sell and they have signed the seller addendum. Let's get into agency for a little bit. Gosh, I'm conscious of the time, but this is important stuff too. You can stop and come back and watch this later. Dual agency, what is it? Whatever it is, don't do it. Don't allow your listing agent to write the offer and work with the buyer of your home, because your listing agent's meant to represent you. And if your listing agent is writing the offer for the buyer, well, guess what? They're probably representing the buyer as well. So there's a conflict of interest. Definite conflict of interest. But an easy way to remember this is it relates to the house. So your listing agent is working with the buyer of your house. So it's joined there. We're talking about one house here. That's dual agency. But if you're selling your house here and you're using your listing agent to buy a house here, just trying to get back, then it's a different house. So it's not dual agency. So your listing agent can work with you as a listing agent there and work with you as a buyer's agent there, because they're talking about two different houses. If they're joined at the hip and it's one house here and you've got a listing agent working as a buyer's agent as well, that's dual agency. And the conflict of interest is huge. Don't do it. Don't allow it to be done to you. And you'd be surprised how often it happens where people haven't really explained to their sellers the impact, and it's not good. What's the role of the listing agent? Work for you, only you. And their job is to get the best price, terms and conditions for the seller. Don't use a discount agent. You'll get what you pay for. Again, horror story after horror story after horror story. Then what's the role of the buyer's agent? Works for the buyer. Gets the best price, terms and conditions for the buyer. Gets their fee from the commission paid to the listing company, paid by the seller. What's MLS? It's a multiple listing service. It's a database that agents enter their listings into. It's the definitive record of source. Listings and sales get picked up, they get pulled from MLS by Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, all of those myriad of databases out there that have that you can search for a home. MLS is the definitive record of source, and they all pull from MLS. We don't control what any of those other subsidiary websites do with the data that they're pulling from MLS. We have no ability as a listing agent to change what Zillow does or what Redfin do. We only can control that. Attachments, we put information about the home, we attach it to MLS, we'll put floor plans, we'll put, all sorts of things, condo docs, all sorts of things, seller's disclosures, inclusion, exclusions, all those sorts of things. Some of them are hidden from the public, but most of them, the agents can email them to their buyers. It typically says how offers are being handled and what the offer deadlines are. Most agents just say offers due at 12 p.m. Monday. And that's just how it's being handled. Some, like me, I'll attach a document to MLS that explains in gory details what the offer process is. It has open house info and how to make a private showing. That's all in MLS. And agents can search property sales and analyze data, to optimize your search and your offer. You can pull comps, all of that sort of stuff from MLS, but it's the multiple listing service. It's too easy for us to use acronyms and not realize that people don't know what those acronyms stand for. Anyway, does this all work? Yes. You want to hear some feedback from some of our clients? One thing that differentiates MA Properties is the all-inclusive nature of their offering. Okay. Danny Fleming, I hate reading this stuff out when it's about me. Danny Fleming is one of the best. She specializes in selling and she is a master at it. Okay. Our advice to anyone considering buying or selling your home, work with Rachel Ades and MA Properties. Corinne Shippett's full-service approach made the process incredibly easy for me as a seller. Wenjian Huang and the MA Properties team were exceptional to work with, and we've got a lot of reviews on Google. If you do Google review and look at the reviews, you can check them all out. But anyway, on that note, guess what? We're done. I'm sorry it took so long, but there's a lot of information to fill people in on, and it's important to get this out to people so that they know what happens. But anyway, look, if you want to chat about some of the stuff in there that you didn't understand, or I didn't go into detail about, or I said there's stories about this, then just reach out. Anyone in our team can help, and we'd love to work with you and fill you in on all of this sort of stuff. And please don't hesitate to reach out. Anyway,